Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Today we are going to start our series of lecture on gastrointestinal tract, in short GIT. Today our topic is overview of GIT, in which we try to cover these objectives. Number one, introduction to GIT, in which we will discuss digestive and accessory digestive organs and functions of GIT. Then our second part of lecture will be on layers of alimentary tracts and their features and functions, and last but not the least, regulation of alimentary tract by parasympathetic, sympathetic, or intrinsic or extrinsic nervous system. So we start with our GAT. Introduction. Simply, in simple word, I want to say that gastrointestinal tract is, or alternative term used, alimentary tract. Gastro means stomach, intestine means small intestine, large intestine. Our digestive system is mostly concerned with these stomach, intestine. So we simply call them gastrointestinal or digestive system. So it starts from our mouth, ends with NS. So it is a long tube. It's a very long tube, 9 meter long tube, or 30 feet you can say. So this tube has some modification in their structure, so they have different name. If this is long tube is going from mouth up to stomach, this is simply a tube. Then it dilate, we call them stomach. Then it becomes small intestine, at the end large intestine, finally last opening anal canal. We divide our organs into digestive organ and accessory digestive. The main difference between digestive organ and accessory digestive organ is that they are they are main organs which involve in digestion, and other organs which assist the function of the digestive organs via secretion. For example, pancreas, liver, gallbladder. We meet their secretion, not they are involved in their digestion. Their secretion reaches at the level of duodenum, small intestine. So we have 6 digestive organs, 6 accessory digestive organs. You can say then number one, oral cavity. Oral cavity, pharynx. Then our food reaches at level of esophagus. Then stomach, dilated part. Then start our small intestine, which continues with large intestine, and finally the opening rectum and anal canal. These are 6 organs: oral cavity, pharynx, esophagus, stomach, small intestine, large intestine, anal canal. One thing you must remember that our pharynx has 3 parts: nasopharynx, oropharynx, laryngopharynx. Nasopharynx is part of a respiratory system, not part of digestive system. In accessory digestive organs, we have salivary glands at the level of mouth, teeth, tongues. These are our accessory digestive organ at the level of oral cavity. When we reach our intestinal level, we find 3 other accessory digestive organs, which are liver, gallbladder, and pancreas. Food not passes through these liver or pancreas. They secrete their secretion in these intestinal system, small intestine, especially duodenum level. So, which help in the process of digestion. So, in this slide, we have studied we have 2 types of organs involved in the gastrointestinal. One are digestive organ, other one are accessory digestive organ. 6 are digestive organs: oral cavity, pharynx, not nasopharynx, esophagus, stomach, small intestine, large intestine. In accessory digestive organs, we have salivary gland. 3 types of salivary gland. Now we can see these are parotid gland, these are sublingual, which is below the tongue, and submandibular, This is your mandible bone. So the gland present below the mandible is called submandibular gland. So simply we can say that salivary glands. And other accessory organs: teeth, tongue, liver, gallbladder, pancreas. Now we coming to our functions of GIT. What should be our function? You know very well at your medical school level that our digestive system is basically a source of energy through all that which we eat daily life that metabolized in our tract. They have to digest. For digestion, first we have to move the food from mouth to anus. This type of movement we call them peristalsis. Peristalsis is movement of food from mouth to anus. If it is in opposite direction, we call them anti-peristalsis or condition of vomiting. Number one function of first we have to move food from mouth to anus in different processes we study in next slide. Then we have to break down the large polysaccharide molecules like starch, glycogen, proteins into amino acid, fats into fatty acids. So we have to digest. Their digestion is not a simple cutting, simply cutting a molecule into some other. They break down, metabolize, catabolize by the help of enzyme. These may be our exocrine glands, these may be our endocrine glands. Then when we have their monosaccharide form, then we have to absorb that food into our blood. So in this way, they metabolize by liver, different tissue. They use this energy which is present in form of glucose, in form of amino acids or fatty acids. So they can utilize when blood take these digested food into the tissue level, for example muscular tissue, RBC, brains. So this is simple pathway. And what will be the result of undigested food? Undigested food eliminated through anal canal. These are simple functions. They have a immunal function. Let's discuss all these functions until we have discussed. Number one, motility. Motility is simply movement of food. We have to make sure our food move from mouth to anus. We have to do everything to make sure the food is moving. First, we have large piece of pizza, burger, anything else. We can't take in that form as we buy from our shop. So first we have to take that food particle into our mouth. We call them ingestion, and then process of mastication started. Chewing a food, mixing with saliva, chewing a food, mixing with saliva. Now it's become form of bolus. Now it's came into. Then we start the process of deglutination. Deglutation, simply swallowing a food from mouth to esophagus. Via pharynx. It's not a simple process. We will study in later lectures. Pharynx. This process of swallowing started. Now we have our food reaches at esophagus level. Some digestion may occur with the mixing of saliva. For example, digestion of carbohydrates started with the enzyme which is present in saliva. We will discuss in separate lecture. Then two type of processes started. Peristalsis, movement of food along the gut wall, and other one is mixing food. mixing food with these secretions. We call them mixing food, and other one are segmentation and peristalsis. These two types of movement occurs with the help of muscle. You know very well that our contraction and relaxation process is assisted by muscular layers. So we have muscles which help mix up food and move food along the gastrointestinal tract. First function, motility. Then function number 2, secretion. It may be a exocrine secretion, it may be an endocrine secretion. We found all these secretion in gut wall. Oh no. What what is difference between exocrine and endocrine? Simple question, simple answer. Endocrine ductless. No doubt. They secrete their secretion directly into blood, and exocrine, they secrete their secretion via duct. Oh no. We understood that. Now, what type of exocrine secretion? It's simple. We will study all these terms: water, hydrochloric acid, bicarbonates, and other digestive enzyme. For example, in gastric juice, we secrete 2 to 3 liters of gastric juice per day. Oh, that's amazing. Then endocrine secretions, a lot of hormones are secreted from our stomach and small intestine. So function number 1, motility, in which we have studied ingestion, mastication, deglutition, peristalsis, segmentation. Then secretion, exocrine secretion and endocrine secretion. Oh, all right. Now the process of digestion, breakdown of food. Larger molecule broken down into smaller ones. We have 2 types of digestion. One is physical digestion, other one is chemical digestion. What is different with physical? Physical simply means we are decreasing their size. Larger molecule we are breaking down into smaller one. We not intake a whole pizza as one piece. We have to break down. This is physical digestion. We are physical breaking down. What is chemical digestion? We are breaking down polysaccharide into monosaccharide. For example, starch into glucose, proteins into amino acids, fats into fatty acids. This is chemical digestion. So simple. If we are modifying or breaking down the chemical nature, then it is chemical digestion. Otherwise, it is physical digestion. Not much confusing things. Absorption. Absorption, our food is digested. Now, for example, this is bolus for food particle we have taken. We have broken down with the help of secretion, endocrine, exocrine. Now our food is in this form, monosaccharide one, for example. Along the gut wall, we have blood vessels. Now we have to absorb these monosaccharide form into bloodstream. This bloodstream is a carrier which take these monosaccharides into tissue level. Oh, where the metabolism started, they get their energy. Oh, this refer to passage of digested and product into blood. This is your blood and lymph, or maybe lymph. This is your gut wall, GIT. So what will happen? Undigested molecules, which is not completely digested, they go through anal canal. They should be excreted. So and some we are not intaking food all the times, so we have to store some food. So the next one process will be storage or and elimination. Undigested food should be eliminated, and there should be a temporary storage. All right. The another important function is immune barrier. Our food may be contaminated with germs. It may cause infection. So there is a immune system also present in the gut wall, which help in the immunity of our digestive organs. For example, which what are the factors which help the immunity? Number one, they have simple columnar epithelium. The other one is tight junction. How tight junction is helping this function? Because tight junctions do not allow the movement the germs between two cells. They are very tight. Oh, you can't go this way. This one. The cells of immune system are also present. Immunity cells. So these three factors help the function of immunity. We have studied functions of gut wall: secretion, motility, digestion, absorption, storage, elimination, immune barrier. Thank you. Now we are jumping into our second part, layers of gut wall. If I want to say what is gut wall in simple word, it is story of four layers. MSMS: mucosa, submucosa, muscularis, externalis. Oh, mucosa is the innermost layer. Gut wall, for example, this is gut wall, lumen of gut wall. The first layers is mucosa. Behind this, we have submucosa, and then muscularis externa, and outermost is serosa. Mucosa, submucosa, muscularis externa, serosa. These are four layers. What are their components? Number one, mucosa. Mucosa has three components or three sublayers. Number one is epithelial layer. You can see here, epithelium. Then these lamina propria. What is lamina propria? Is it connective tissue? Lamina propria. Then muscularis mucosa. This is your muscularis mucosa. These are three sub layers in the mucosa. Oh, epithelium one is the innermost layers in gut wall. What is the function of epithelium? It is the most absorptive, most secretive, and innermost layers. So, for the function of absorption, we have, for example, in case of small intestine, we have villi, we have brief borders, and some other modification at different level. So, how they modify their structure epithelium? With the help of muscularis mucosa. Muscularis mucosa contraction make sure to modify the structure of epithelium. Now, submucosa. One thing important regarding the submucosa, they have nerve plexus. In nerve plexus, what is nerve plexus? Nerve plexus. Nerve plexus is collections of nerve fibers, bundles of nerves. So there is a mini brain present in our gut wall also. Mini brain? They have nerves? Yes, they have nerves. It's very interesting to for you people that nerve neurons, ganglia present in gut wall, they have more. Their number is more than the nerve and neuron present in your brain. Hmm. Allah. The nerve plexus are the bundle of nerves. Submucosal plex. They involve the function of secretory fluid secretion. Why? Because they're uh, under the mucosa. Which what is function of mucosa? Secretion, absorption. We call them mesenteric plexus also. They innervated by sensory nerves. So we can sensory. You you can remember for submucosal triple as sensory, submucosal plex, and secretion. Muscularis externa. They also have another nerve plexus. We call them magnetic nerve plex or orbital nerve plex. They involve in the function of motility. What is what are the functions? In case of motility, we have studied now. You must know ingestion, deglutition, mastication, peristalsis, segmentation. All these are included in motility. In secretion, maybe exocrine secretion and endocrine secretion. In muscularis externa, this was your submucosa. You can find two types of muscles in muscularis externa. One are circular muscle, and other one are longitudinal muscles. Longitudinal muscle are on the outside. Circular muscle are present on the inside. We have magnetic plexus. Where are magnetic plexus? Hmm, 1 minute. I can change the color. You can see in this diagram. This is your submucosal plex because this is your submucosa, and this is your magnetic nerve plexus, which involve in the function of motility. You can remember muscular motility, muscular motility. So in simple word, you can say and you this is your circular muscle, and this one is your longitudinal, and the outer one is serosa, the outermost layer. You can remember the nerve plexus is present. One is on the outer side of circular layer, one is present on the lower side, on the inner side of circular muscle. So inner one is submucosal plex, outer one is orbic or magnetic nerve plex. We have these two types of nerve plexus which form the local nervous system of gut wall, enteric nervous system. So then the outermost is serosa and or adventitia. Intraperitoneal, for intraperitoneal we call it serosa, for adventitia for retroperitoneal. We have peritoneum in our abdominal. Our abdominal or viscera are covered by, some are covered by peritoneum, we call them intraperitoneal. Which are not covered by peritoneum, we call them retroperitoneal. For example, kidney, ascending colon, descending colon. We will study all these in anatomy lectures on peritoneum. Now you can see here epithelial cells, which may have endocrine cells or receptor cells. Then you can find, oh yeah, then you can find this is your lamina propria, this is your muscularis mucosae, this is your submucosa, then this is your muscularis externa, muscularis externa. You can, on this side you can see these two nerve plexus which are forming our enteric nervous system, ENS. Enteric nervous system. It is type of autonomic nervous system. It is involuntary in action. This nervous system is only related to digestive system. It's not related to respiratory, cardiac, anything else. Enteric nervous system is a nervous system which is present in the gut wall. So this nervous system also controlled by autonomic nervous system. We call them extrinsic. We will study these terms in later slides. I have prepared. Oh. Epithelial lining. I want to study a little bit more histology of these layers. Epithelial lining. Well, two types of epithelium we will find. Stratified squamous or simple columnar in our gut wall. Stratified squamous will be present in your mouth, surface of tongue, pharynx, esophagus, and rectum. Mouth, pharynx, tongue, esophagus, and rectum. The between the part, for example, stomach, small intestine, large intestine, they have simple columnar epithelium. Stomach, small intestine, they have simple columnar. So if someone asks what is digestive epithelium, we simply call simple columnar because for major organs, for example, stomach, small intestine, large intestine have simple columnar. Then lamina propria, as I told all of you, this is connective tissue which contain fibroblasts, macrophages, lymphocyte, eosinophil. Then muscularis mucosa, mostly smooth muscle fibers. Smooth muscle, this is involuntary in action. They are controlled by autonomic nervous system, or in this case, enteric nervous system. It is absent in mouth and pharynx. It is start from esophagus. Muscularis mucosa is absent in mouth and pharynx. Submucosal layer, mucous layer, submucosa, it also absent in case of mouth and pharynx. Muscularis mucosa is absent in mouth and pharynx. Submucosa is also absent in mouth and pharynx. So submucosa is present in all parts of GIT. It contains collagen fiber, elastic, reticular. Most important, they have blood vessels. They have lymphatic vessels. They also have nerve plexus. Nerve plexus, lymphatic. What is the name of nerve plexus? Please tell me. The nerve plexus is submucosal nerve plexus. What is function of submucosal nerve plexus? Secretion. Submucosal triphus. We have studied. All right. Blood vessels is very important. Lymphatic vessel, because they help the mucosa in their functioning. So when we study the embryology, we will find a mucosa. Only mucosa is in endodermal region. All these submucosa, muscularis externa, serosa, they have mesodermal region. Only the epithelium lining is have endodermal region. So muscular layer could be a skeletal muscle layer or smooth muscle layer. If they have skeletal muscle layer, what should be difference in case of smooth muscle? Smooth muscle is involuntary. Skeletal muscles is voluntary. It is in our control. We can do what we want. But in case of smooth muscle, everything is going upon itself. So in case muscular layer, in case of lips, cheeks, wall contains skeletal muscle. So we, when food is present in our mouth, we have control to ingest or not, they chew or not. This because they have skeletal muscle fiber. In case of esophagus, we have two types. We in anatomy you will study better. Now skeletal muscle are smooth muscle. We divide our esophagus into three parts. The upper one is in control because they have skeletal muscle. The lower one is only smooth muscle. The middle one is mixed smooth and skeletal. The wall of stomach intestine is formed by smooth muscle, though. So this is involuntary in action. If, if someone asks you what part of gut wall have more muscles, simple answer is stomach. Why? Because they have an extra muscular layer. We call them oblique layers. Circular layer, longitudinal layer is also present, and spatial information regarding stomach, they have inner oblique layers of muscle. They have three layers: inner oblique, middle circular, and outer longitudinal. In case of intestine, we will find inner circular and outer longitudinal. So Arbeck nerve plexus is present in between the circular and longitudinal. What is function of Arbeck nerve plexus? Motility. Oh, peristalsis segmentation. Everything is controlled by Arbeck nerve plexus. Smooth muscle fiber present in inner circular layer of anal canal. Internal anal sphincter is smooth, is involuntary, but outer anal sphincter is skeletal muscle fiber. That's why it is in our control, external anal sphincter. So if it is not in our control, we can't stop ourselves in case of serious condition. So serosa or fibrous layer. In last slide, you have studied serosa or adventitia. It is regarding abdominal. But is fibrous layer when serous serosa in case of stomach, small intestine, large intestine, the outermost is serous layer, which is composed of connective tissue and mesoepithelium. While fibrous layer, fibrosa, it covers pharynx and esophagus because there is no peritoneum. They are not the definition of intraperitoneal and retroperitoneal is not for the pharynx and esophagus. So they have connective tissue only, which we call them fibrosa. It is fourth outermost layer of in case of pharynx and esophagus. So we are entering the very important part of our nerve supply to gastrointestinal. We have two types of nerve supply. Number one is intrinsic, which is enteric nervous system. Enteric nervous system, which include two types: submucosal plex and like oh, it's not concerned with spelling. There may be a mistake. Enteric nervous system have two types of plex: submucosal plex and adventitia. This is your intrinsic, inside the gut wall; extrinsic, outside, which is autonomic nervous system. It is two component. sympathetic and parasympathetic. Which one is in case of fight and flight? In case of emergency, which one? Parasympathetic or sympathetic? I think it's maybe a parasympathetic. It's maybe a sympathetic. Simple answer is sympathetic. I remember this term as a mnemonic. Para or represent for rest. It's just for a mnemonic. Rest, in case of rest, is parasympathetic, and in case of fight and flight or emergency condition is sympathetic. So we now autonomic pathway. Let's discuss the autonomic. Autonomic system has two types of neurons. One we call them preganglionic. What is ganglia? Preganglionic and postganglionic is the other term. First, we must recall what is ganglia. Ganglia is collection of cell bodies. If you are familiar with the basic structure of neuron, they have dendrites, they have axon, they have cell body. Collection of cell bodies is called ganglia. So this is your ganglia, and the neuron which is before this ganglia is called before, post, after. So this is your postganglionic neuron, this is your preganglionic neuron. So autonomic ganglia, the nerves came out from CNS, they goes out and they form an autonomic ganglia, and finally they reaches target tissue. The autonomic ganglia in case of gut wall, you mainly concerned with the celiac ganglia, superior mesenteric ganglia, inferior mesenteric ganglia. Celiac, superior mesenteric, inferior mesenteric ganglia, as this is discussed in the development of our digestive system. So this is a very simple process. So, and finally target tissue, it may be a stomach, it may be a small intestine, it may be a large intestine. It is a comparison chart for sympathetic and parasympathetic. It is very simple. When in case of sympathetic emergency condition, my pupil dilates. Then inhibition, flow of saliva, heartbeat. Emergency condition, heartbeat increases. Bronchi dilation. My breathing is speed up. But one system which is inhibited is the gastrointestinal tract. Why this is slowing down? Why this is inhibited? Because it's very important. Because I want to run away from dog. I need more blood flow in muscles instead of gut wall. So, because I want to run away from dog, I am in case of emergency condition. I want to run away. If I am unable to run away, I would be a very good dish for that dog. So, first we must need to remember that our gut wall is inhibited in case of fight and flight condition, sympathetic condition. So it's slowed down, inhibited. While in case of parasympathetic, I am in normal condition. I want to peristalsis, I want to secretion, I want to digestion, I want to absorption, or everything else. So everything related to your digestive system is inhibited in case of sympathetic. You must remember this. Now we are going to discuss this. What will happen in gut wall? What will affect on the functions of gut wall in case of sympathetic and parasympathetic? In neurons go out from CNS, reaches at ganglia, reaches at target tissue. What will change the functioning, the physiology, or their function which is performing already? They are changed by the neurotransmitter, their chemical messenger. The nature of chemical messenger define what will be the action. In case of sympathetic, you mostly have norepinephrine, which what will be the effect? It will decrease motility, decrease secretion, but increase the constriction of sphincter. What is sphincter? Sphincter is present between gut wall at different level. It makes sure our food is going downward in peristalsis movement. So if I constrict the sphincter, so I am stopping the motility, the process of peristalsis. I am not allowing the food move along. So in this way, I am, in other words, I can say I am inhibiting the function of gut wall by decreasing their motility, by decreasing their secretion. So another maybe you will find in some books is ATP. ATP is also an inhibiting or sympathetic neurotransmitter. Parasympathetic. In case of parasympathetic, we have acetylcholine is the main one. You will and other word familiar in case of nervous system. Vagus nerve, acetylcholine. They are alternatively used. Vagus nerve, vagus, vagus nerve. The vagus nerve acetylcholine is same thing, not much different. So what will the in case of motility? I am in normal condition. I want to increase my motility. I want to increase my peristalsis, segmentation, deglutition, mastication, ingestion, everything included in motility. In secretion, exocrine secretion, endocrine secretion, they should be increased. In case of rest, parasympathetic, what will be effect on constriction of sphincter? They will decrease. Acetylcholine simply constrict the muscle. Constrict the muscle to make sure to secrete. Constrict, secrete. Constrict, secrete. This is function of acetylcholine. How the constriction of sphincter is decreasing, and other neurotransmitter VIP, vasoactive intestinal peptide. These liberate the nitric oxide, which function is to dilation. So this dilate the sphincter or relax the sphincter in this way to make sure peristalsis process. And GRP, gastrin releasing peptide, they affect on G cells, which increase the secretion of gastrin. What will the effect on gastrin? They will increase the secretion of HCl, hydrochloric acid. In this way, they increase the process of digestion. So, in parasympathetic, we are increasing our motility, we are increasing our secretion, but we are constricting our sphincter, increasing gastrin. So, you must remember all these very simple concepts, but very important. So, this is all about sympathetic and parasympathetic. And other, in case of sympathetic, our muscle are relaxed, mean the lumen is increased, dilated. When they constrict, they secrete. Constrict, secrete, which is in case of parasympathetic, not in case of sympathetic. So, very well understood, you people. And other term, vagus nerve is supplies upper GIT and lower GIT, except the lower large intestine, which is innervated by spinal nerves, came from sacral region. Because our vagus nerve is cranial nerve, while our spinal nerve came from sacral region. So in this diagram you can better understand. This is your medulla oblongata, pons, and vagus nerve came from here. They innervate vagus, stomach, small intestine, ascending colon, ascending colon, which is large intestine, proximal two-third of transverse colon is also innervated by vagus nerve. This is innervated by vagus nerve. While what is its function? Constriction, contraction, and open sphincter. Neurotransmitter name is acetylcholine. While from pelvic region, the distal one-third of transverse, descending colon, sigmoid colon, rectum, anus, these are innervated by these S1, S3, S4, which are sacral region. These are spinal nerves. Cranial nerve, which came from our skull or directly from brain. Spinal, which came from spinal cord. So these are innervated by spinal nerve. In case of sympathetic innervation, greater splenic nerve can arise from T8 to T10 vertebra and relay in celiac ganglia, superior mesenteric, inferior mesenteric ganglia of gut walls and supply esophagus, stomach, small intestine, cecum, ascending colon, descending colon. What is function? Relax wall, close sphincter. Relax wall, close sphincter. This is function of sympathetic because they are not contracting the circular and longitudinal muscle. So the name of secretion. Now we discuss the orbic plexus. Last one, the orbic plexus. What is orbic plexus? You have studied. Orbic plexus is present between two muscular layers, circular muscular layer and longitudinal muscular layer. We call them mesenteric nerve plex. It is present between inner circular, outer longitudinal, inner circular, outer longitudinal, inner circular, outer longitudinal muscle. Function of orbic plex. What is function? Modality. Regulate the movement of GIT. Some nerve fibers of this plex accelerate the movement by secreting. The important is the neurotransmitter. Neurotransmitter define the functions of our gut. Some are excitatory, which excite the function, and other one are inhibitory, which inhibit the functions of movement or motility. The neurotransmitter which excite are acetylcholine, serotonin, substance P. You must remember these excitatory neurotransmitter: acetylcholine, serotonin, substance P. An inhibitory transmitter included VIP, neurotensin, and enkephalin. These three are the inhibitory transmitter. If I want to inhibit the functions of gut, so our autonomic nervous system will release the inhibitory neurotransmitter or otherwise excitatory neurotransmitter. The important one is acetylcholine and substance P. In this case, VAP is very VAP. It is very important. So another one is mesenteric nerve plexus. What is function of mesenteric nerve plexus? Mesenteric is submucosal nerve plexus. It is present in submucosa. Submucosa has secretion. So this is involved in case of secretion, regulation of secretory function of gut wall, constriction of blood vessels is the function of major nerve plexus. So I think you have got a lot of points in this lecture. In this case, you can see the extrinsic nervous system, which is innervated by sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. Then innervating, they are controlling these muscular layer. This is your longitudinal muscle. You can see magnetic plexus is present between the circular and longitudinal, and submucosal plexus is present in the case of submucosa and mucosa. So submucosal plexus control mucosa and magnetic control the circular and longitudinal to control motility. Intrinsic is also controlled by autonomic. If I cut the autonomic nervous system supply for the gut wall, the enteric nervous system has ability to control the gut wall function. Ooh, that is very important. So they they may be controlled by parasympathetic and sympathetic. Magnetic nerve plexus and submucosal nerve plexus. You can see they are controlling these two plexus. So in this way, they are controlling whole gut wall. We concluded our module. We have concluded our lecture. Sorry, module not. What we have studied? We have studied three basic and very important concepts. We have taken an introduction to gut wall. We have understood the functions. Number two, we have become familiar with four layers of gut wall, their function, their features, and finally regulations of gut wall by parasympathetic, sympathetic, enteric nervous system. Thank you very much for listening. If you find this lecture useful, then pray for me, just your prayers. Thanks.